welcome everyone. So again, my name is Aldo Gutierrez, Product Line Manager at EXFO, responsible of the high-speed testing solutions. So my presentation is going to be complementary from what we've seen in the last two presentations. So we just some data about the market report and also some others about the component side. So now the focus of this presentation is how to test optical transceivers to be compliant with the different standards. So let's get started. So my presentation will be focused in the new generation of optical transceivers, which are based on photonic integrated circuit technology. And then we'll go to the core of this presentation, which is really the testing. How to test the transceivers to be compliant with the different standards. And afterwards, I will present the unique EXFO end-to-end transceiver testing solution. I will summarize my presentation with some key takeaways. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start from the basics. So what is a transceiver? So even the word, what is coming from? So pretty much is the mix between the words transmitter and receiver. And indeed, optical transceiver convert optical data into electrical signals to send them afterward to routers and switches. So optical transceivers are key components, in a few words, to transport the traffic over the optical networks, specifically in data centers. According to some estimation, in a modern data center today, there are around 50,000 optical transceiver in a data center. So transceiver vendors today, they have a lot of pressure to manufacture thousands of samples per month. So they're gonna need some efficient, accurate, and fast tools to complete this task. Okay, but before to jump on this, let's review. I know that we have seen this in previous presentation, but it's still, in this case, I'm presenting among the different applications where silicon photonics is used as the main technology. The photonic integrated circuits are applied for transceivers. And this particular application is the one that presents the most interesting growth. So it's for different parts of the topology of the network, such as data center, long-haul transceivers, but also they are used for 5G applications. Then, if we take a look at the global market of transceivers, so it's an historical one, but also the forecast. And if we compare the ratio between the new generation based on photonic integrated circuits and the typical bulky transceivers, we can see in the orange part that there is a trend. And every time the PIC-based transceiver are gaining traction, and in this multi-billion market, it is estimated that in the landscape of 2026, there's going to be around $5 million invested in PIC-based transceivers. So many companies are jumping into this new technology. And probably the question is why? Why they are using PICs now? The answer is easy. By replacing some electronical function with optical ones, it is possible to reduce the power consumption. So optical is always lower consumption than electronics, which leads to have a better thermal management. So thermal management in a bigger scale, in a macro scale, is the main issue for data centers today. Second point is that photonic integrated circuits allows to get higher integration. So in a nutshell, it is possible to reduce the size and then to have smaller form factors. The next one is by developing some optical components onto a monolithic structure, it is possible to reduce the optical losses. So at the end of the day, we're going to have devices with better signal integrity and for them, better or superior performance, generally speaking. The next one is coming really from the technology, from the PIC technology, which allows to produce a high volume in a single chip. And then with leads to have a reduction of cost, generally speaking. So those are the advantages for using PICs in the transceiver. But probably the next question is why, what is a PIC-based transceiver? Because we are talking about bulky transceiver, PIC-based, but what does it mean, PIC-based? So basically, it's to replace some bulky components by some monolithic structure. So we can classify this at the transmitter and the receiver side and the optical sub-assemblies. So for instance, at TX, we can have indium phosphide lasers as well as Mach-Zehnder modulators, multiplexers and couplers. And then at the receiver side, we can have some multiplexers, waveguide, as well as photodiode. So those would be the components that will be integrated in the single structure. Then if we jump to the core of this presentation, what is the challenge to test the new generation of transceivers? Okay, so the challenge today is to be compliant to test the high complexity coming from the diversity. So we have today different form factors, different rates going along from 1 gig to 800G. We have different modulations such as NRC, PAM4. We have coherent technology as well. So it's extremely challenging to test all of them with a single tester, but that would be ideal, right? So in order to make sure that we have very efficient components, we should be compliant with the standard. So what are the testing that we should do to be compliant with the standard? So those tests can be classified into 4 categories. So it's the electrical, the optical, mechanical, and firmware and management. But in today's presentation, I'm going to focus in the first 2, electrical and optical. And if we can put those compliant tests into a chart, we have this. So we have on one side the compliance test recommended by the Aldo EEE standard. So you can see that some of those tests are performed at the transmitter side, others are at the receiver side. So those tests are parametric, which means that are typically performed during the manufacturing process. So to get a full qualification of transceiver, we're going to need a mix of optical and electrical equipment, testing equipment. Optical, it's, for instance, power meters, optical spectrum analyzers, OSA, oscilloscopes, attenuators, and on the other side, we have the electrical, which are basically bit rate testers. So an end-to-end transceiver testing solution would have ideally all of those parameters in a test bed. And pretty much, this is what we have at EXFO. We are the unique solution in industry capable to comply all the chart that I presented before. So as can you see here, the device under test is the transceiver. So in this part, we can run the electrical test. We have different choices to have either electrical validation or protocol testing of the transceiver. Then for the optical signal, we have different kind of switches, and also is complemented by oscilloscope to analyze the eye diagram. We have as well some variable back reflector to test the stability of the laser at the transmitter side. Afterwards, we can have as well attenuators cascaded with power meters to run the receiver sensitivity test, which basically it's a calibrated degradation of bit rate value as a function of one attenuation. So the idea is to know how stable is the transceiver to get a healthy burr. So the idea is to find attenuation that leads to 10 to the minus 12. So there is a threshold, so we can know how much the transceiver will support. And finally, we have the optical spectrum analyzer to check the quality of the laser. So basically, we focus on the wavelength accuracy as well as the side mode suppression ratio, which is the quality of the laser itself. So this is our end-to-end transceiver testing solution, a mix of optical, electrical, and protocol testing. We're doing really, really good efforts to get an automated solution, which means to click only a button and receive all the data, all the results that I just described here. This solution is future-proof because we have some external evaluation boards that would be ready for the next generation or the next form factors. And this solution covers or is ready to test any transceiver from 1 gig to 800G. But what I just described here is the parametric test. But in EXFO, we have a complete ecosystem to test transceivers that goes beyond the testing in manufacturing. So we have some solution that starts with the spectral test at the design side. So really testing the waveguides, the PIC, at the passive components at this level, at the R&D level. But also, once the transceiver vendor finish the manufacturing process, we have as well some functional tests. So if we can see it here, I just presented the parametric test in the center. But as I said, we can have some assessment of the waveguides onto the chip level with the passive component and PIC testing solution. And we have as well another solution that is ready to be tested at the data center environment. So basically, we have some protocol testers with some applications dedicated for transport and validation of transceivers. So if we focus in the end-to-end transceiver testing solution at manufacturing, we have the one at the center. This is the schematic, but in real life, it looks like this. This is a real photo of the EXFO unique transceiver testing solution. As you can see, it's really compact. All the optical functions are provided by this platform. We have the bit array tester with the evaluation board, as well as the optical sampling scope. So it's compact, it's modern, automation ready. It's really a nice solution. And also, here at ECOC, we are presenting different tests from the transceiver. As I said, we are covering much more than only manufacturing. So we are showing the PIC testing solution. So you can pass to our booth. We can provide further details of that. And in EXFO, we are collaborating with other companies dedicated to alignment system and which are in the PIC level, PIC testing level, let's say. Also, our solutions, our test boxes are ready to test transceiver by injecting traffic, like this use case. So with a bit electrical validation, with a bit array tester, sending electric traffic, and checking the quality of the transmission with the sampling scope. This is one of the use cases. The second one is when we have no clock data recovery. So in this case, we have only an optical signals coming from the transmitter, and we would be able to recover the clock with one of our boxes, and then to check in the different parameters with the optical sampling scope. So we have also in our booth the new generation of Intel 800G transceiver. This is still a sample that comes from the engineering team. It's not a commercial sample. So it's really interesting. It's the new generation based on PIC. So if you want to check, if you want to see how it runs in live, please come to our booth. So, and finally, we have the last solution, which is ready for data center environment. So in this case, it's a module for testing protocol. It is ready for Ethernet, but as well as other applications for transport, like OTN. We have different applications for testing transceiver in a couple of minutes with the smart application iOptics. And we are also showcasing this solution in our booth. So the summary of my presentation, first key takeaway. So transceiver industry is migrating towards the PIC technology for leveraging the different advantages such as reduction of power and reduction of size. Second, from the testing perspective, the challenges that manufacturers are facing on a daily basis is to be faster, accurate, ready for automation, reliable, and covering the wide range of transceivers, as we said before. So to be compliant with the standard, we have no choice. We need to perform optical and electrical testing. And in EXFO, we are ready to provide such solution, covering from 1 gig up to 400G, covering from physical layer up to the layer number 3. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for the speaker? I have a question. So
Okay.
in the silicon photonics testing, you showed a wafer prober. Is EXFO basically selling a prober solution with its equipment, or you add an add-on to the prober, or how does that work?
That's a very interesting question. No, actually, in EXFO, we don't provide the proof. We provide the tester. So this is why we are complementing our ecosystem for testing with other partners, such as HP, MPIs, and others. So pretty much we provide the component tester. So what we can do is a spectral testing from the optical components, such as waveguides, AWG, couplers, and so. But also we can test the active components in the PIC using the spectrum analyzer, using the oscilloscope. So what we can check is pretty much the quality of the transmission. Okay?
Okay, I have any other question? Because I have one more. So typically in a silicon photonics fab, you do optical test structures on your wafers to look at quality of the wafer and if there's process issues. Is that part of something that you're looking at, or is it, how does it
Well, it's really a strategical move, but yeah, EXFO is kind of targeting this market as well. So, okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.